Hello and welcome back everyone who's listening to this end of the day session. So thank you very, very much for joining us for day one of the Energy Storage Summit. I really hope you've enjoyed all the sessions and the panels that we've had so far. So we've got a wrap-up presentation for you now, which will be presented by Lauren Cook, who is one of our energy analysts at Solar Media. She's an expert on the UK storage market, and she'll be sharing a presentation around UK market sizing and trends. As I said, the presentation will only be about maximum 20 minutes, but we will allow time for questions from the audience. So if you do have any, then feel free to pop them in the chat and I will go to them after Lauren's presentation. Just wanted to say a final thank you to all of our sponsors and partners. We couldn't have run the event without you, so thank you very much and we really appreciate your support. So now without further ado, over to you, Lauren, and I look forward to seeing your presentation.
Thanks, Lucy, and thank you everyone for joining us for this final session. There's been a lot of great content today, and you get to finish the day watching the sunset over my shoulder. So it's been a good day all round. So my name is Lauren Cook. I'm an analyst in the Solar Media market research team, and I cover battery storage in the UK and Ireland. Today I'm going to give a market update on battery storage in the UK, looking at where the pipeline currently stands, annual deployment, and also highlighting some trends that we can see in the project pipeline. All of the data shown is from our UK battery storage pipeline report. This report is updated monthly, and the data presented today is from the February edition. So I'm going to start with a quick overview of battery storage in the UK. Activity in the market has continued to increase year on year. We've had over 60 new planning applications submitted in 2020, representing over 1.2 gigawatts of capacity. And we've already seen activity in the market in 2021 with new applications into planning and also pre-application activity. And we've also seen project announcements, projects progressing. So it's a very busy time in the market at the moment. In the reports and for this data, we use planning as a key source of data. And we regularly go through the local planning authority portals to gain very early visibility on new projects as they are submitted. Deployment of projects moves a lot slower than we see the pipeline growing. And we can see from the database that the period of time from a project being submitted into planning into the project completion can vary. Some projects are completed in 2020, were submitted to planning as far back as 2016. And there's no general rule for how long deployment takes. We've seen some projects coming through much faster. This is in part due to how quickly business models and revenue streams have evolved. Projects that would have previously been less financially attractive may become viable again as new revenue streams become available and prices fall. And we've also seen projects being resubmitted or extensions being submitted. So a project that may have previously been entered as 20 megawatts may be resubmitted at 50 megawatts or even an extension added. So there's definitely a lot of activity on that side. There have been delays over the past year due to COVID. Construction has been able to continue for battery storage projects, and the desk-based early stages have continued, but the whole supply chain has been affected, and supply delays alongside safety measures on site and in offices mean that the whole process has experienced delays at various points in the year. We've seen a lot of activity and changes in the revenue streams available to battery storage throughout 2020. For example, batteries are now participating in dynamic containment, and this is due to batteries being well placed to provide frequency response services and other grid services that benefit from fast response times. We've also seen companies offering new software platforms and businesses allowing battery storage projects to access these markets. And we've heard from a lot of them today in the various sessions. A key trend we've seen over the past year is the inclusion of co-located battery storage in new build wind and solar farms. Deployment of ground-mounted solar farms has been low since the end of subsidies a few years ago. However, a huge pipeline of projects has built up, and a lot of these will start to be built this year. The same is true for wind farms. The typically larger size of wind farms means that some of these co-located projects will be much larger than those we would see alongside solar farms. So taking a look at the pipeline deployment over the past few years, there is currently around 1.2 gigawatts of battery storage projects deployed in the UK. We can see in the graphic that deployment experienced a peak in 2018 as the first batch of projects that were successful in the EFR, the Enhanced Frequency Response auction, were completed. And in 2019 and 2020, we have seen around 200 megawatt deployed per year as the market moved towards more varied business models and away from the specific deadlines from the likes of the EFR. Towards the beginning of 2020, it did seem as if deployment in 2020 would be much higher. There are and were a large number of projects under construction. This isn't a final number for 2020 deployment. There's often a delay in projects being announced as the final commissioning steps and testing are completed, and we won't know a final number for 2020 for a little while yet. If we look closer at the 1.2 gigawatts of operational projects in the UK, we can see that over 1/3 of the capacity deployed in the UK comes from projects larger than 30 megawatts. This is largely made up of projects of 49.9 megawatts due to the previous 50 megawatt limit on planning without having to submit a nationally significant infrastructure project. And just under 1/3 of the projects are between 20 and 30 megawatts. And this proportion is likely to fall as we are seeing lots more 49.9 megawatt projects coming online. And that is by far the dominant size of project at the moment. When looking at new projects in the pipeline in terms of number of projects, it is likely that we will see the number of smaller projects increasing as we see more co-located projects being completed. And the largest projects currently under construction will be 49.9, and this will remain the case in 2021, as these projects will have been planned well before the 50 megawatt cap was removed. The pipeline of projects in the UK has grown to over 14 gigawatts, plus the 1.2 gigawatts of operational projects. Around half of these projects are at the early stage, which means they have either submitted a planning application or they're at the pre-planning stages. This includes scoping and screening applications. And a further 6 gigawatts of projects have planning approval, but have not yet shown they are ready to progress. The final column showing ready to build and under construction projects is at nearly 2 gigawatts. And these are the projects that could realistically be built in the next 12 to 18 months. There are different factors we take into account when deciding if a project is at the ready to build stage. This includes an investor acquiring the project and giving details on a construction timeline, a battery supplier being allocated, a contract start date, for example, previously the EFR, and we now look at capacity market contracts. And from a planning side, we're able to see when construction has begun from increased planning activity and if there are any conditions being discharged. So that gives us an idea when construction has started. There are currently around 60 projects at the ready to build stage, and it's hard to know exactly how many of these are under construction. We do know that there are projects that were due to be completed in 2020 that have either been delayed or have been completed but not yet finished the commissioning stage. And we try to capture the projects when they are operational, but definitions can differ, as some developers will wait until the project is delivering a particular service to consider it completed. We can see from the size of the projects that total deployed capacity could increase dramatically over the coming months and year, if even just a few of the projects larger than 30 megawatts are built. There are a few different factors we can see being important in siting battery storage projects. The Southeast is by far the largest region for battery storage, and this makes sense from a grid perspective as it is a densely populated area and battery storage can provide a grid reinforcement role. The next two biggest regions for battery storage are the Southwest and Scotland, and this coincides with large amounts of renewables on the grid, with wind and solar in the Southwest and large wind farms in Scotland. We can see similar trends throughout the rest of the country on a more local level, with batteries being sited near areas of high population density and also areas with a lot of renewables collected. On a more local level, we see clusters of batteries being sited around some of the largest substations. And there are some really big wind farms in Scotland where we know that battery storage systems are being currently built, both as a retrofit and also new builds. So that's a really active area of the market. And we think that going into looking at this year, when we look at solar farms and wind farms, adding battery storage will definitely be considered, and developers will be making decisions on those this year. So as a summary of battery storage in the UK, there is currently around 1.2 gigawatts of battery storage projects operational, with the pipeline of projects at just over 14 gigawatts. Average project sizes depend on the type of project. For standalone projects, 49.9 megawatts has been the most common size for new projects. and this is likely to increase with changes to planning rules. However, there will be a delay in seeing this coming through in operational projects, as these projects will still need to submit planning applications, which will take time to get through the system. And co-located projects vary a lot more in size, as they will obviously depend on the capacity of the co-located generation. Business models for battery storage have matured and new revenue streams are becoming available as the benefits of battery storage are being more widely understood. Battery storage is now recognised as playing a key role in meeting decarbonisation targets. As we move towards zero carbon electricity systems, we will need very large volumes of storage capacity to manage the intermittency from more renewables coming online. And this has been recognised in National Grid's future energy scenarios and is being considered in making policy decisions. Overall, we expect to see battery storage deployment continue to grow in the UK, and 2021 is looking like a really good year for battery storage in the UK. As I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, all of the information shared today is from our UK battery storage project database. The report provides a full list of projects in the UK from the earliest stages of planning and pre-planning through to completion. We share information on project size, planning details, and the companies involved. So that's all from me. I'll now hand back to Lucy and we can take some questions.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for that. So we do have a couple of questions to round off, mainly talking about the B word, as you can see, but just wondering if there's any side effects in terms of, well, I guess, with regards to, say, reducing investment when it comes to the impacts of Brexit.
I mean, it's really hard to quantify the impacts of Brexit. I mean, activity in the market has continued to grow. We've seen projects moving forward. A lot of the companies involved in battery storage in the UK, you know, they are UK based. They've been investing in the market for a few years now. So it's really hard to say if there's been a direct impact. It will have more of an impact on the supply chain. And you know, the double threat of COVID and Brexit will have had an impact and will have caused delays through various parts of the supply chain across the year.
Yeah, certainly. I feel like, well, you know, it will become much clearer in terms of the real impact of Brexit, even though it's been a long time coming. We did have another specific question around the percentage of the total pipeline with regards to standalone versus co-located.
So I don't have the exact number in front of me right now. It's obviously something I could look up later. But what I would say is, in terms of the megawatt pipeline, standalone is by far the largest proportion. If you looked at number of projects, then it's slightly more, you know, there's a little bit more balance there because of the size of the co-located projects. If you look at, you know, for example, a 20 megawatt solar farm is not going to install a 50 megawatt battery, for example. So yeah, it is difficult to put an exact percentage on without the numbers in front of me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I would encourage the audience members, if they would like to see more, you can download Lauren's report and we can share links for that as well. So we have another couple of questions which we've got time for, in terms of, do you have any figures in terms of aggregate revenue for the sector? So both present and also future projections.
No, so we tend to not look at the revenue in so much detail. We're really looking at the kind of the project pipeline, the projects coming through. The revenue streams have moved so quickly. It is really hard to, you know, even for the projects that are operational, to know what revenue you can associate with those projects. So we really just want to look at the, you know, the projects in the ground, the projects coming through in the pipeline, rather than putting kind of revenue figures on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in terms of sharing a link to the report, would the best way be for audience members to get in touch with yourself or one of the team, and then they can find out more about how to access? Yeah,
so my email is on the screen, but I'm also available through the networking tool if anyone wants to get in touch, and I can arrange for some more information to be shared.
Great, yeah, sounds good. So we have another question from Fuad. Do you think there'll be a clear shift in the future towards either distribution or transmission connected assets?
I think this is really split by size of project. We have seen a big jump in the number of projects being submitted into the transmission network. And I think that's only going to increase as we see the project sizes increasing. It makes a lot more sense for a 50 megawatt project to submit to the transmission network, and even more sense for a 100 megawatt battery storage project or even larger. So I think there will be a clear shift, but I think the smaller projects and the co-located projects will continue to be submitted into the distribution network.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And just to wrap up, so you mentioned at the end there, 2021 is going to be a really good year for battery storage in the UK. So just a final question from me, what are you kind of most excited about for this year, if you could pinpoint one thing?
For me, it's having worked on this database for a number of years now, and following these projects right through from the pre-planning stages, is actually starting to see a lot of these projects being built, finding out which companies are what they're working with, finding out which developers are taking those projects through to completion. So it's really being able to follow that whole project cycle right through from the early stages. That's very satisfying.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Thanks so much, Lauren. In the absence of any more questions, I'd just like to thank Lauren, of course, for her presentation, and thank all of the audience members for listening throughout the day and for your questions this session. So just a reminder, we'll be back at 9:15 tomorrow morning. So we'll be opening with a really interesting panel around how the sector can scale up storage in order to hit net zero targets. So that will be hosted by IHS Markit, and we've got a couple of great panelists lined up for that. We'll also then be running some sponsored workshops in the afternoon by our platinum and diamond sponsors. So if you're interested in them, then please do get in touch, because 2 of them are invite only. So if you'd like to attend, then just let me know and I'll be able to find out if that's possible. And in the meantime, I hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll see you all back here tomorrow morning for another great day of content. Thanks so much, Lauren.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.